Okay, well, so far these have been pretty good. Let's see, I covered that one, I covered that one. I don't know. Which one can I do next? I don't know.
Next up is a game from the original PlayStation days that really set the precedent for survival zombie horror. That game is, of course, Resident to the motherfucking Evil 2. You see, for me, Resident Evil 2 is really where the franchise began to take off. I mean, yes, Resident Evil 1 was okay, but it was a bit clunky and a bit hokey. Resident Evil 2, though it did suffer from the same problems that a lot of the games did in that era, still, with what it had and with what it was trying to do and what it was trying to accomplish, it was phenomenal. I mean, Capcom really blew the roof off of this one. Yes, there is a huge fan base for this game, in case you're not aware, but it is a fan base that I will definitely have to say is earned. Resident Evil 2 is by far the best out of the entire Resident Evil franchise, in my opinion. Now, I know as of in recent years, it has been updated and redone to have better graphics and better voiceover, but I don't know. There's something about the original PlayStation version with its kind of hokey and crappy graphics that definitely adds to the charm of the game, in my opinion. You're struggling with the controls, therefore you're kind of struggling against this horror world. So, if zombie survival horror is kind of your niche, then I would definitely recommend you check out Resident Evil 2 for the original PlayStation.
We can't stay out here. Head to the police station. It'll be a lot safer.
Next up, The Suffering for the original Xbox. Now, I absolutely loved The Suffering. This is one of those games that it has a multiple outcome ending, and I cannot emphasize enough how good the story for this game is. If you've ever played The Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, you'll immediately recognize the mechanic that is being utilized here. Whether you choose to succumb to your madness or whether you choose to fight it off and take the higher road, it's all up to you, and that will also determine the ending that you get in the game. Now, the main story behind the game is that you play as Torque, who is a death row inmate who has been accused of killing his entire family, his wife and his kid. Now, whether or not you actually killed your family, that's kind of up to you. Now, there is a demon infestation going on inside of the prison, and you have to escape. Which, by the way, I have to talk about the prison just for a second. Oh my goodness, I absolutely loved the background story of this prison. This prison, the prison island that you're on, it goes back centuries. They did a really, really good job at making the prison and giving it a personality of its own. It really comes alive. There's a lot of other things to find hidden throughout the prison, but it's up to you whether or not you try to find them, if you try to solve it, or if you just try to get the hell out. So with that being said, I absolutely highly recommend The Suffering for the original Xbox.
Next up we have
The Evil Within. Now, I will definitely have to say that The Evil Within is one of these games that does a very good job at straddling the line between psychological horror and survival horror. Now, I don't want to give too much of the game away and what the premise is and what it is you're supposed to be doing, because the way that the game plays and the way that it unfolds is very interesting and well worth the time and the gameplay. So if you want to play a game that will really keep you guessing throughout its entirety of exactly what is going on, then I highly recommend The Evil Within.
Next on my list,
Alan Wake. Now, Alan Wake is a very interesting game because it's one half murder mystery and the other half ghost story. Now in the game you play as Alan Wake, who is a famous novelist, kind of like Stephen King, who comes to a small town to investigate his wife's disappearance. While he's there, strange things begin to happen as parts of a novel that supposedly he wrote but doesn't remember writing start to act themselves out and come alive within the town. The game plays kind of like a TV miniseries where it has different episodes that define the chapters of the game. I also enjoy the pacing and the atmosphere of the game and the fact that it doesn't solely rely on the atmosphere of the game to set its spooky tone. Parts of the game take place in spooky dark forests, but other parts take place in brightly lit sunny afternoons. So it really lets the story set the tone and set the mood, unlike a lot of other horror games that just kind of keep you in a dreary state throughout the game, and I really like this. So in my opinion, I would definitely have to say that Alan Wake is definitely a good game if you prefer more story-driven horror. Now definitely one of my all-time favorites is Fatal Frame 2: Crimson Butterfly. I would definitely have to say that if this were a top 10 list, out of all the games that I have shown you thus far, this would be my number one pick. The Fatal Frame series has everything you could possibly want in a horror franchise. Everything from suicides to murders to legends that go back for centuries to haunted houses to haunted villages to ghost stories to survival horror. Just everything you could possibly want in a horror game is here. Now, as I've already stated, I absolutely love Fatal Frame Crimson Butterfly. The whole premise behind the game is that you play as one of two sisters, Mio and Mayu Amakura. Now, you play as Mio. Now, as far as the gameplay is concerned, there is actually a lot to do. Everything from figuring out what the hell is wrong with your sister, to what's going on in this village, to what happened to the villagers, and even who some of these ghosts are, and kind of solving their backstories and mysteries. It's very, very intriguing. Now, also on that note, as far as some of these ghosts go, they are not exactly the kindest of spirits, and they will attack you. Now, this is where the survival horror aspect comes into play. Now, in a lot of these survival horror games, you have a gun that mysteriously and miraculously can actually shoot non-corporeal beings such as ghosts. But in this game, there is no gun. What you get is a camera. And only by taking pictures at very specific moments, usually right before these spirits are about to drag you to hell, but by taking these pictures at specific moments, you're able to actually damage them and banish them. That's the only means of defense and offense you have throughout this game. Everything is also done from the perspective of Japanese mythology and superstitions, where not only are these people dead, but they are pissed. And it is the living that is going to have that vengeance extracted upon them. So if you're a fan of Japanese horror and you like a good old-fashioned ghost story with a lot of twists, turns, and angles, with a little bit of puzzle solving, and just all around frights and scares, then I highly, highly recommend Fatal Frame 2: Crimson Butterfly.
Okay. I just gotta get a hold of myself. He was okay. Alright. I have no idea what the fuck is going on. But anyway, guys, so there's some games that'll hopefully keep you guys in the mood for the Halloween spirit. Let's just be thankful that shit like that doesn't exist in real life. And that's what I'm going to tell myself. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this little Halloween special. As always, I am Runeding the Viking Reviewer, and until next time, my friends, remember to always contemplate this on the Tree of Woe. I done shit myself!